Nobody handles garbage better than we do.
Yep.
Oh, come on, Earl. Now, this is low. We have got to set our sights a little bit higher.
Welcome back as we continue exploring the film Tremors. Now, since we consider this a new season for the channel, as it's early 2026, we wanted to take a moment for new viewers to understand our intentions when we go over a movie. We never narrate a film's storyline from beginning to end unless it's screenplays that are different than the film. We trust you've seen the movie, and therefore do not tell you the story beats like standard critics. What we're going over here are the production tidbits in specific scenes, deleted or alternate takes that were either cut, whether at the script level or film level. We go over theories debated by fans. We look for scene and character-specific details, and sometimes I'll throw in a couple of my thoughts as we go, but usually I save my verdict or views on a film until we are finished covering a film. And most of the time, you can guess my overall thoughts by the time I get to the end, which in this case will be in our part 4 video. Remember, this is about depth, and that's why we do it this way at this channel. And we're not telling you that you should align with our views. Rather, these deep dives are to give you deeper understanding of the differing perspectives and nuances in a film as an audience member, while honoring the many lost intentions of the filmmakers, which are often overlooked by many. And truthfully, the way I've always looked at movies is that films are like onions. Once you peel away a layer, there's something else underneath. And if a movie's really good, there should be another layer that you can peel away. And you can look at a film in many different ways. Someone who says a film can be watched only one way, or there's absolutely one take on a film, doesn't know what they're talking about. There are many ways to look at different movies, and we really love that here at the channel, and that's what we're interested in. Now that I'm done with that, if you want to know more about the behind-the-scenes stuff of this film, watch our part 1 and 2 videos. Otherwise, let's get straight to it. Now, one thing we have to say right up front is that when we cover movies, we usually cover script details, deleted scenes, and novel tidbits in all our videos for as much context as possible. But for this video coverage, we will be missing any novel insights completely. For those familiar with this franchise, a movie novel was released in 2025 called Beneath Perfection. But we won't explore this book in this video series, because at this channel, we look at the merchandise that was directly tied to the movie upon its release, so it's in its purest form to match the creator's intent. Most novels are based on the shooting scripts and earlier script drafts. Now, there are some novels out there that are oddballs, like the Gremlins film novel, which really strayed from the scripts. But most of the time, the books are exactly based upon the filmmaker's original visions. A perfect example is the Alien 3 novel, which had every detail of the assembly cut that audiences had to wait some 11 years to see. Those scenes were no surprise to those who read the novels. The problem with movie novels that come out months or years after a movie is released is that these texts often correct established gripes or issues in films and make excuses for them. The more distance a novel usually has from its film, the more writers have license to add details to make sense of bad writing. We're not saying this is the case at all for the Beneath Perfection novel. What we are saying is there are examples out there that perfectly demonstrate what I'm talking about. Perfect example is the Last Jedi film novel. The Last Jedi was just lazy, contrived filmmaking, where Rey is a god, a master in the Force, within a day of thinking it was a myth by downloading it from Kylo. And the book tries its best to band-aid the flaws in the film. The book is better than the film, as it tries to elevate the intelligence of that movie, but it's still a terribly constructed storyline regardless. So with this attitude in mind, don't expect any insights of the new Tremor novel at all. Now, the horror elements of this film are entirely unique in that it's mainly during daytime. rather than at night to create a spooky environment. They relied on the uncertainty and vibrations people made to create the suspense, long before we ever see a creature. Originally, the film would start with a dark scene where Edgar put his beloved donkey in a barn and it would be eaten by a graboid, only to chase him to the tower where he would eventually die. This would have started the film off like any other horror movie, to give it threat from the first scene. However, they wisely set it up with a casual tone, so this causes the audiences to focus on the people rather than the creature. In the deleted scene, there was more screen time with Edgar and Fred to flesh them out a little more. Edgar is walking his donkey that's very sick, and Fred arrives to give Edgar some carrots from his garden, which will hopefully compel the sick donkey to eat. And Fred would ask Edgar if they are planning on playing cards that night, but Edgar states he's going to stay behind and care for his donkey.
Are we going to play cards tonight?
I'm going to be sitting up with her.
Oh, well, I do the same. All right, I'll catch you Thursday.
I'll bring the ammunition.
After that, he would take the donkey to its fate in the barn. This deleted scene is good, and it was shot to completion. I don't think it should have been in the film, though, as the movie we got is very tight and perhaps perfect in its linear execution. Speaking of execution, this film is a perfect example on foreshadowing alongside setup and payoff. Everything is relevant in this movie, and it pretty much goes full circle by the end of the film, such as the first shot being there to foreshadow the final shot of the graboid's demise. Earl constantly speaks about planning ahead throughout the film, and by the end, Val finally plans ahead to kill the creature the way he does. When the fridge bearing sounds, Earl actually reminds us of his desire to keep a schedule to tie into the planning ahead theme. But the bearings turn out to be a foreshadow of the worm breaking into the shop later. In the beginning, Bert is very specific about buying his gun shells, and this is a setup of his later gun collection. A worm is killed by running into a ditch, and then a tractor is destroyed by running into a ditch, thus reversing the situation for the species. Melvin laughs as our beloved heroes get sewage all over them, and later he is splattered by body parts of the worm destroyed later, thus making him the joke. Even deleted scenes set up things that would be later paid off. There was a scene when Melvin would throw his ball at Bert's car and set off the car alarm, and then later in the film, that car alarm would announce to the others that their car was in trouble. There are more, and some are blatantly obvious. So keep this in the back of your mind when you watch this movie again, and you'll see it all over the place. It's cause and effect writing at its best, and the acting only elevates the story further because everything comes off sincere. Kevin Bacon picked out Val's belt himself. He thought the belt buckle with a heart on it looked great for a character named Valentine. After the shoot was finished, he learned that it was a woman's belt buckle, much to his amusement. I also like their truck advertisement, which is extremely simple. The problem with this is that they're not very good at all kinds of jobs, and Kevin Bacon improvised a little bit by hammering so poorly in a shot soon after with Val, thus showing that even though they're handymen, they are not particularly good. And the outtakes for this scene is pretty funny.
We should stop being the hired hands. Jesus Christ.
Now, the townsfolk in this film are simple and traditional, making it kind of a treasure in itself because it shows countless different characters with clearly differing views. Bert and Heather are gun-touting conspiracy theorists who have made a compound out of their home. While Bert is the reactionary, Heather is balanced and actually holds Bert's reins, thus conveying a seasoned relationship.
Bert, cut it out!
I think I scared him.
Val and Earl simply don't care about world affairs and are just getting by and dream of more for their life. Rhonda LeBeck is the graduate student who is an intellectual, unlike most in the town. Melvin is spoiled rotten with no manners and parents who don't take him with them on their trips.
Why don't his parents ever take him to Vegas with him? You gotta ask that.
Nancy is an artist who is divorced. She is calm and gentle, and the single mother of Mindy. She was also described in casting as an ex-hippie, and the writers would later utilize this in the TV show. Miguel is a hard-working rancher. Nestor is the town's junkyard man and collector who doesn't have a lot of money like Val and Earl. Walter Chang corners the market and commerce for the community. He not only runs the main store, but post office, barbershop, and meeting center for the community. In the 1988 script, his name was Pham Van, but this was changed wisely to Chang later. Jim and Bebe Wallace want a quiet life and are building their dream home away from the things of the world while being the doctor and nurse of the community. Edgar Deems is the town drunk and hermit. Fred is extremely caring and considerate of others, even giving away valuable things he has while he has little for himself.
Damn, Fred. You can't afford to give all those away.
Justine, look what Fred brought you.
In the end, this community was varied in their approach to life, and yet when the creature appears, those who survive work together for each other to beat a common problem, and not a moment of it felt forced or false. Now, one thing I will say about Ernest Trost's soundtrack is that he definitely understood the core of the movie, as his tracks focused on fun, easygoing country tunes to match Val and Earl and their adventures. However, the music beyond those characters is pretty lame, with the exception to the tractor and the ending scenes. It's not a score I would recommend to non-Tremor fans, but it has some good moments. It took about 10 years for fans to get their hands on this score, as it was released in the year 2000. An interesting side note is that the town used to be a mining town, and after it shut down, a few of the descendants stuck around. Thus, it maintained an existence. Later, they would use this idea for a prequel. Now, another deleted moment that was in the script, book, and it was filmed, explained where Melvin's parents were. While at Chang's store during the beginning of the film, Bert's truck alarm would go off after Melvin hit his basketball against it.
Melvin, you little pain in the ass. Hey, it wasn't me, man. Your truck's just screwed up, that's all.
Then it was stated, why don't his parents ever take him to Vegas with them? This would be followed by another deleted scene where Nestor promises to pay Val and Earl at the first of the month for their work, and this evolves into stating that the area they live in is economically depressed, and this precipitates the discussion that they should move to Bixby, but they worry that they don't have enough money for rent. And when Val suggests they take a job at a popular car wash at Bixby, Earl is not impressed with the idea. More establishing deleted scenes would continue in the script with a character named Viola. Right before filming, these scenes were cut from the film. Viola is an elderly lady who is sweet but has a vicious, loud dog. As the scenes were originally written, Val and Earl were emptying her septic tank, and she would be on the porch when the sewage scene occurred. They quickly changed this to Melvin, which makes complete sense, as it works perfect for the film. The scene where Rhonda is being stalked by the creature in the beginning is very effective. We actually expect her to die, because she's one of the characters who has the least focus in the script so far. She just showed up and said hi and revealed she's working for the college. That's it. In fact, like Alien, a subtle character during the first act becomes one of the main intellectual heroes. Thus, Rhonda's setup in this film is a textbook example of how to utilize characters in an overall story. Another early scene before the men encountered the graboid was cut from the film as well, which established the Jeep trail. The scene does nothing but show you how rough the trail is, but it does have a nice little moment where Val and Earl do rock, paper, scissors to see who gets the most of a Payday candy bar, which happens to be my favorite candy bar. And Val wins. I would have won too for Payday, just so everybody knows. Look at that. I'm doing free advertisements for Payday. Boy, I could use you as a sponsor, Payday. You know, it's funny. On this channel, we've been offered sponsors that sell nipple covers, gun holsters, camping equipment. It would be nice to get a sponsor that actually fits a movie channel, though we had talked about it and thought, you know, while you're watching a movie and your nipples are chafed, maybe you should buy this nipple cover. Yeah, I don't think that's going to fly. Let's move on. Eventually, the truck would get stuck.
You're gonna get hung up. Please do not talk to the driver.
Honestly, if this was in the film, I think it would have slowed down such a tight script. There is no fat in this movie, and this scene is a sequence that certainly could have been construed as fat. Now, to establish the roughness of the Jeep trail while filming, they would often throw boards under the truck while they filmed to make it more bumpy, which is actually very creative and quite effective. Now, the scene where the car was pulled into the ground was cut from the shooting schedule because of budgetary reasons. As dailies went on, the studio liked what they were seeing. Near the end of filming, Steve Wilson would call Jim Jacks at Universal and ask him if they should put the scene back in the film. He told Steve to send him the budget, and this scene was the last reshoots of the film. It was filmed near Los Angeles, because by that time they were nowhere near the location where they shot from. The sinking of the car was difficult, and in the end it didn't work as planned out. As a result, the final covering of the car was a very smart edit of headlights in the sky. The scene where the graboid is discovered dead and holding onto the truck axle was the first scene Reba shot on the film. As they did the scene, she delivered her lines like she should, and the moment Ron Underwood called cut, she yelled out, "Yay, I'm in the movies!" When Val, Earl, and Rhonda returned to the town to warn everyone about the threat in the desert, there was a scene where Earl tried to be a matchmaker for Val and Rhonda. It's a sweet scene, and to be honest, I don't think this one would have hurt the film if it remained in. It shows kind of a fatherly spirit in Earl that is kind of above and beyond, and I like it.
Look, I know I'm about as subtle as a donkey's ass, but pardon my French. What I'm saying is that the boy's got potential, that's all.
When we get to the scene where Rhonda is trapped in the barbed wire, there was a moment where she has to take her pants off, and they never auditioned it. In fact, Finn wanted the scene to happen during filming for a more surprising and shock effect. When she started taking off her pants, they were entangled in the barbed wire, and since they didn't rehearse it, it was very awkward. What's not seen in the film was because it was so awkward, they couldn't get the pants off, but they had to keep the scene going. In the end, Finn tried so hard to get out of them that she accidentally headbutted Kevin in the head.
Oh,
Cut!
mother.
Cut!
I'm sorry.
This would not be the only time Finn would whack Kevin in the head, because during the scene where they would try to bait the graboids with tossing stuff on the ground, Finn wasn't a great thrower. After a couple of takes, they kept telling her that it was not good enough. Finally, she pulled back to do a good throw, and her toss hit Kevin Bacon right in the back of the head.
He whacks him in the back of the head.
This might see his abs.
We're surprised Kevin is still alive after
I'm surprised I still had that part after the second one.
injuring the main man.
Yeah, star.
The deleted character of Viola would return when everyone is making the plans to leave town. Val would plead with Viola to come with them, and she would refuse to leave her home, and directly after that, Melvin's basketball scene would occur. This scene would conclude after Rhonda would escape with Val into the store after getting caught in the barbed wire. The old lady would be in her trailer, but her loud, angry dog would not stop barking, thus attracting a graboid, and they would literally pound her trailer trying to get to the occupants inside. They are so forceful that it would tip over, and then they would bust inside and get to Viola. Directly after that scene, while they're trying to think of something to do, Chang's soda freezer would make its noise, and then the creature would come up and kill Chang. Now, to be honest, the scene where Chang dies is enough to convey the horror in the movie. Viola's character was not needed at all, because this one moment is effective enough to sell the terror these creatures represent, not only seeing them grab him, but the disturbing visual of his leg being broken as he's dragged inside this horrid thing's mouth. It's visceral and very effective. During one of the takes of this scene, everything was interrupted when a runner from the studio office came barging onto the set yelling Kira was going into labor. Ron Underwood yelled cut as Kevin Bacon was running out of the building. After the tractor was obtained, there was an extra scene with Melvin, where the graboids tore down his shed, and he would panic just before being saved by the bulldozer. Though tense, the truth is, the scene wasn't necessary. For me, an awesome moment of the film is the scene where the graboids trap the bulldozer. It's a very effective shot, and it only raises the tension as these things are consistently smart and methodical. I just love the way they shot this. This scene was followed by another deleted scene where Mindy was afraid to go with the others, and Val showed his fatherly side by encouraging her. It's a nice scene, but again, I think the movie is perfect the way it is.
I don't want to go. I want to stay.
Mindy, honey, we can't stay here. But don't worry. They can't get us once we make it to those rocks.
At the end of the movie, when Val is standing over the forced perspective shot on the cliff, originally a stand-in for Rhonda was going to be shot with the effects team. The stand-in never showed up, though, so Ron Underwood put on a wig to play Rhonda and stood on a scaffold high above the visual effect on the cliff. However, he ultimately decided to cut it out of the movie. There was also another deleted scene where after they killed the graboid, Earl would note that he wants to make noise, and all three of them begin stomping on the ground. The original ending for Tremors was to have Rhonda go up to Val and Earl after everything was resolved, exactly like the film with the same lines, and then she would walk away, while Earl was kicking Val for not going after her. In that dialogue, Earl would lecture him that earlier she wasn't good enough to meet his expectations, and now he isn't good enough for her, and he would reveal, fine, make the mistakes I did. Then Earl states if Val won't go for her, he will, and he's going to stay to fix her equipment and be there for her to document the creatures, implying a future competitive love triangle. When they filmed this, it was a little different. It started out with Earl lecturing Val that he was good enough, and after a minute, Earl would pull out a cigarette and realize that Rhonda has his lighter. This is another example of the setup and payoff that the filmmakers constantly had in mind. Then, this would happen after they realized she still had their lighter.
Hey, you know, I think the woman still has our lighter.
Well, hell. That's a good lighter.
Test audiences hated this ending and wanted Val and Rhonda to get together. So they reshot the scene to have Val go after her and kiss her. This reshoot was done 3 months after filming ended, and Finn Carter was flown out of New York on a Friday to LA for an 8-hour shoot. She described filming these scenes like this.
It was 8 hours of kissing Kevin Bacon. And many people think, oh, poor you. But it really went like this. How's the baby?
Yeah, he had just...
Is she breastfeeding? But it was probably the most unromantic kissing I've ever done in my life.
And with all this explored, it's time to end this video. In our final video, we're going to have our final thoughts on the film, as well as all the sequels. And we're even going to have a special guest during that video. I'm going to try something new that I've never done in a video before. We're really glad we finished part 3. We're really moving forward with the videos. We have a lot planned. So we'll see you in the next video.
We did it, we faced temptation and did not bend. Goddamn praise the Lord.
If you like what you see here, click like and subscribe. Super thanks helps. And so does sharing. We'll see you next time.